name's Sally. I'm a recovering addict, 6 years into recovery. I started off my addiction, basically, I was 14 years old, got into a relationship with an addict, which I never knew at the time. I was too young to know. But he was a heroin addict for 10 years before I touched anything. Then I become the addict. So from 14 I've lived an addiction life really. Scrimping and scraping and having to do things that you don't want to do to get money for the other person. Basically showing a bit of attention, and I always say that my first addiction was attention. So that fed what I needed at the time. So which it turned into a relationship. I stopped in that relationship because I thought that's what you had to do. 19 I had my son, so then I did think that's what you had to try and make a family. But it was never a relationship. I facilitated his addiction because I made it easy for him to be an addict until I become, and then it comes to the point where he's going to jail. It's easy for him to make me the addict to keep the relationship ended because he was in jail. If he hadn't been in jail, I'd have never got away. But I also became the heroin addict at that time as well. So that was easy for me. I had to get harder then. I had to, instead of being the one that was too anxious to speak to people because he was controlling and watched every step I made, I had to become the person that looked after myself. So I went completely opposite with the fighting, the stealing, going to jail. I was the heroin addict, crack addict, alcoholic for 15 years, and it come to the point where I'd done the shoplifting, I'd done the crime, I'd done jail, I'd done selling drugs. I was at the rock bottom. I never knew what I was going to rehab for. I knew a person who worked in the VAC, and I knew he was a friend of mine in addiction, and I thought, he's tried it, he's done it, I've got to try something. I never knew what I was going to rehab for. I hadn't got a clue. I just knew I'd got to try something and that'd be my last chance. Otherwise it would be death. Or I'd have been in jail for a very long time. I think before I come into rehab, I don't think I even had feelings. I'd just give up. And I knew this was whatever it was, whatever I'd be doing, was for 16 weeks. I can do a jail sentence, so I can do 16 weeks somewhere. I didn't know what therapy was. I just knew that was something that I had to try. My trust issues is like, it's still today. I have to trust people to give them whatever they want from me, do you know what I mean? But I'm not an easy truster, and going into groups and that, I wasn't. One-to-ones with my therapist, I could do it all day long. I'll sit there and cry all day long with my therapist, but to sit in a group of like 26 people who I don't know, to show my weakness, because to me that'd be like showing weakness. Oh, they can do what they want to me then. But then I had to learn to pull it down, and maybe I'm still a bit like that. But right at this minute, that works for me. But I can talk. I wouldn't have been sat here talking to you like I'm talking to you now 6 years ago. From the BAC I went into Ashby Road as a supported living house, where I volunteered at the tea rooms 30 hours a week, which I could probably say without that I'd have had no chance. If I'd have gone back to my hometown, I'd have had no chance. But I was with like-minded people and other people with what I've got now, 6 years. They were 6 years into their recovery, so I learned from that. I think After a few months I got a part-time job. After about a year I got a supervisor job. And then about 2 years later where I am now, a manager of the tea rooms, which I do. What them people did for me 6 years ago, I'll try and do for them that are coming through now. Well, they get satisfaction for a start. They get that motivation to want to get up in the morning. And yeah, it might not be good every day, but at least they've got somebody to come in and talk to. There's other volunteers here that they can speak to. And there is, whatever they're going through, we've been through it. We've been there, whether it's the same thing they're struggling with, the similar experiences that we've all had. And they can learn from us. But they can also learn to deal with the public. This helps tremendously, I can tell you through experience, deal with anger issues and how to speak to people properly. There's loads you can get from it. That nobody needs to be in that position. It is that you need to trust something to even go that far in the first place. So me going, I trusted my worker, which I trusted what he was saying. Then I went to the BAC, trusted a nurse who understood what I was saying at the time. So that led me to trust her to go that far in the first place. And basically to talk and stay connected. And that's the biggest thing, stay connected. So if you've got no connections, if I hung about with a load of surgeons, I'd have probably ended up being a surgeon. If I'm going to hang about with a load of addicts, I'm going to be, drug addicts. I'm going to be a drug addict. But now I'm with a load of recovering addicts. And that's where I am today.